everybody. I'm Doreen Peterson, President and Founder of the American College of Healthcare Sciences. I'm here today with my daughter, Achs.edu, Chief Strategy Officer of American College of Healthcare Sciences. And we're here at beautiful Sherwood Lavender Farm, and we are about to distill some lavender. Thank you very much for harvesting our lavender this morning. What we're actually going to be working with today is Lavandula angustifolia. And later on we will talk a little bit about the differences in the varieties. But one thing that's of interest in lavender is, first of all, in fact with any plant before you distill it, is really understanding where the essential oil is within the plant. And for lavender, the essential oil is within primarily the flower, a little bit in the leaf. And ideally you want to harvest it. This is the perfect time for harvesting, and there's not a lot of sun out, which is also perfect, even though we might like a sunny day. It's perfect because as the sun gets high in the sky and as the sun gets hotter and as the environment warms up, essential oils will volatilize out of the plants and fill the air, which is why, as you walk by a lavender field, you can smell lavender. And so your yield is, a little bit lower if you harvest at the wrong time. Plus, you could be losing active constituents that are vital to your essential oil at the end. So, harvesting at the right time. The other thing to appreciate is what the oil gland actually looks like. So without getting too technical, if I was to take a really strong magnifier and look at lavender, I would see that there is a cell on the flower that's quite long. It's called a trichome, and essential oil cells, the part of the plant that produces the oil, is going to be a little bit different in every plant. But in lavender, it's on the end of this trichome, and it really is quite bizarre looking. It looks like something out of, outer space, and quite beautiful as well. So if you ever get a chance to see some close-up photos, and if
we'll send you some.
Yeah, we'll send you some. And if any of you are in the program, the aromatherapy program, you also get some information on this. But we can definitely send you this. So it's fascinating to see. And also with lavender and with the trichome, it means you have to handle it somewhat carefully, because you can easily rupture those cells, the sacs on the end of these trichome, these long cells, and start losing oil. Of course, we should have talked about that before we harvested, but never mind. There's always a second time. And
everyone was handling it really.
Yeah, you were. And definitely when you're picking amongst bees like that, you have to do a super job.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is talk a little bit about the still. We're going to pack it and we're going to get it going, because distillation can take, we should probably when we get up to 10, we want to leave it going for at least an hour or so. And, and I'll show you what to watch for. This is where the art of it comes in. There's definitely a science to distillation, but there's also an art to it as well. So we'll learn a little bit of both today. So basically, has anyone done any distillation before? Nobody done any sort of like whiskey, All right. So basically what we have here is a small distillation unit designed and built. Actually, this is my husband's company, the Essential Oil Company. He's been distilling for many, many, many years. So he really is an expert in designing stills that are very functional, and he designs very small stills. He designs huge stills and puts them in all over the world and teaches the farmers and local people how to distill when he delivers the distillation unit. So basically what we have here is called a retort. And a retort is really just the pot where we're going to put the plant material. And what we're doing with distillation is we are we're not liquefying the essential oil. What we're doing is we're actually rupturing that cell that holds the essential oil, the volatile molecule, and it's going to get captured by the steam, which we're producing by boiling this water down here, and the steam is going to come up through the plant, and it's going to rupture the heat and moisture is going to rupture that cell, and it's not going to dissolve in the steam. It just carries it. It's going to carry it down up through here. This is called the bird's beak, and you can kind of see why it's called that, right? The design is quite important. It's the start of like the cooling process, and it continues to carry it all the way down through here, which is the condenser, and the condenser is full of a bunch of coils, copper coils, and we're going to be pumping coolish water through here. Can anyone think why we would want to do that?
Separate the oil from the steam.
Eventually that's going to happen, but steam, when it cools down, does what? Turns back to water, right? So what we're trying to achieve here is we've got steam coming through here. We're going to cool it right down. We're going to turn it back into water, and out of here is going to come out what we call our hydrosol or a hydrolat, which same thing, or distillate. And it's going to come out into our separator, which looks like this. And
I left some distillate here in the separator so you guys could see it before we start, and we're going to separate this off to show you how we do it. But basically, this is the distillate going to come out here. We're going to have the separator on here, and it's going to fill up just like this. And then see what starts to happen? Your oil floats on top. Right, and that doesn't happen with all oils. Actually, a few oils sink to the bottom. A few have a specific gravity that's heavier than water, but most oils have a specific gravity that's lighter, and they'll float on top, which is what you'd expect.
So that's good advice, Erica. So yeah, the specific gravity is basically just, is the oil heavier than water or is it lighter than water? If it's heavier than water, like wintergreen or let's say cinnamon, clove can actually have two separations. It can float and sink. I've seen both. It's very interesting. You will deal with it slightly differently, but today we're working with an oil that is lighter, so it's going to float. So this little separator, isn't it absolutely darling? This is really again one of my husband's designs, and it's a very important part of essential oil production, because if you can't separate the oil from your water carefully, you're going to end up with water in your oil, which is not a terrible thing if you're not making a lot, but certainly not something you would want in a large volume of oil, because it will affect the storage of it and affect your end goal. And we're going to pipette this off once we get our still packed, so you can take some of that away. So what I'd like to do is have everyone come up and put some plant in the still. And the one thing that we're going to really be careful about is when you come up to put it in, I've put a little step stool here you can step up on. You're really going to push it down as hard as you can, because really making it compact in the still with no holes ensures that the steam comes up nice and evenly. We want the steam to just sort of, really come up through. And if steam finds the path of least resistance, right? So if you've got a hole over here, it's going to come up through this hole and not do all this plant here. So you end up with a lot of wasted material and your yield is low. And, it's just better to be more efficient and to really make the most of the energy we're about to use, and also the plant. We want to make sure we don't waste the plant. What they call these holes in a large production unit, rat holes they call them. So we don't want any rat holes. So who wants to go first? Terrific. Bring your basket.
Got this one. Should I use yours?
Oh, yeah, you can use that one. Whatever. Yeah.
It's ready to roll.
Kind of nice to put your stuff in.
Sure. Okay, so step up on the step.
Yeah.
Okay, whoa.
And then you can see.
You're pretty tall, but
cool. You
you're gonna pack it down inside that basket. Now, when I distill or when I make any medicine, if I'm making a tincture or if I'm making, an ointment, or I'm blending a homeobotanical or blending a flower essence, I always do it with intention. I always want to infuse my end product with positive energy, whatever that means to you. You know, whatever positive energy means to you, I make sure my mind is full of that. I want to put that out through my hands and, you know, really do it with focus. And I truly believe that your end product is affected and improved by intention and visualization. Two extremely powerful forces. So whatever you choose to think, whatever you want your end product to achieve, because you're going to be taking some of this away today. You know, maybe you want your lavender to be really something that's going to bring you, you know, anti-anxiety, or, you know, just stress relief, or just a sense of, you know, memory, joy of this lovely day. Anything. It's your choice. Things that's important when you pack still is that you don't get any steam leaks, because if you get a steam leak, not only is it inefficient, but you're losing your material through that steam leak. So it's important to get everything, actually no, I've got a bit there.
Yeah.
It's important to get everything out of the way so the lid goes on nice and snug, and that there's no materials in the little groove here where there's a really tight seal. So what I'm doing here is just blowing the flowers out of the lip that's going to hold this down. And I think we're pretty good. If anyone wants to come and check out what it should look like, if you're planning on doing some distillation. What we've done now, we've packed our still with our plant material with intent. We've got no rat holes. I don't see any rat holes. We've really packed it down hard. And, you know, if I do this, I certainly can't get it down too much more. And I've taken all the flowers out of the rim. You can see here.
Two right there. Yeah.
And I don't want any of the twigs sitting in there either, so we'll tuck it all under. Now we're going to add water, and you'll see here I have a sight glass, and this is really convenient because I don't want to overfill, but I also don't want to underfill, because I do have an element in here, and obviously I don't want to burn the element dry. And I have marked here where I'd never want my water to go below. This little blue mark here, which is getting a bit worn off.
You need to hand tighten these. You don't do them too tight. In fact, sometimes if you do it too tight, it makes this uneven, and then you lose some steam. So you've got to you'll fit it with it a little bit.
This here, I usually find I have to tighten up. Note, I keep I keep a glove, some gloves, and a wrench, just in case. And of course, the still's going to get very hot, so we don't want to be touching it. So now we can turn it on. What I have here is a recirculating pump that's going to be putting water, cool water in and pulling the hot water out. A really good question Carolyn asked. She asked, what is the difference distilling in copper or steel or iron or another material? And actually, I've seen it, yes, glass. I've also seen a wood distillery down in Paraguay. They do petitgrain and wood. So it does make a difference, and I'm glad you asked that question. Excellent question. Each material will give you a slightly different end product, because there is a chemical reaction with the botanical and with the essential oil. And with something like lavender, when you distill it in copper, you don't get that really kind of sulfury, grassy note that you can sometimes smell in fresh lavender. I think it sweetens the lavender. If you do it in glass or in stainless steel, you definitely notice the difference. It's a different aromatic experience. You can get this in steel as well. You can get this in stainless steel, and you know, it just depends on your preference. So you can hear the condenser filling up, and this will start to warm up. So I think what we're going to do now, in order to get our separator ready, is pipette off the oil that's in the separator.
Got a really, really fine tip at the end, so you can draw up your oil without drawing up any water into it. And as Doreen mentioned, you don't want any water in your oil. It'll affect the quality of it, particularly over time. So this right here, it's really pretty much... do we sell these at the apothecary shop?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we sell these. So you need to have one for each type of oil, because you're never going to get this completely clean. So you don't need to have one of each of these, but you need to be really careful to never draw any oil up into this doohickey, which has a really specific name that I can't remember.
Pipette pump.
Pipette pump, there you go, not that specific. So you don't ever want to draw the oil up into it because it's plastic. You never want to have oil come in contact with plastic, and this is something actually that is really important when you're buying essential oils in terms of the quality of the essential oil, is make sure you know how it was stored. It's ideal to buy from someone who buys directly from the distiller. This pump is really simple to operate. You stick it down in here in the oil, and of course you don't want to get it down in the water, and then you're going to pull it up like that.
Is this Lavandula angustifolia?
This is angustifolia, yeah. We actually got a really good yield from this. This was actually dried, and dried will give you a better yield. We were experimenting, Doreen and I, and we dried some actually from last year, and we got a really good yield. We also we mostly distilled the flowers.
Has anyone heard that term, aromatology? Aromatology is basically using essential oils for psychological issues, sort of the psychological effects of aromas. So it's nice to start with, how does an essential oil work? How does it actually work? We know it smells, right? But actually, to some people who have something called anosmia, who can't smell, do you think it still works?
Yes.
So is it not important that it smells then? What do you think?
It's important. Very important.
But what if you can't smell? It still works, right? Okay, so let's talk
effectively.
Right, yeah, you could probably taste it. Maybe not as effectively. That's interesting. Let's talk about smelling. Perception of smell and what actually happens when you smell. The olfactory system is fascinating, and of course we don't know everything there is to know about olfaction. What we do know is that the first stage of it is detection. So maybe that is the bit that an anosmic cannot perform, because of course they can't detect aroma. So maybe that is not as essential, because what we have been able to find out from research is that essential oils still have an effect on the body, psychologically and physiologically, whether you can smell it or not. So the first thing, those volatile molecules are going to come from the bottle, and we're going to open the bottle now. What should we do? Let's see. Let's do anise, because that kind of goes with ice cream. And wouldn't that be nice? But I don't have any coffee essential oil.
Coffee ice cream.
Oh, coffee ice cream and anise essential oil. Oh gosh,
Vanilla ice cream.
that would be good. So when you're first inhaling an oil,
Oh, you can smell it from here.
I didn't do enough of these, so I'll just throw a few out here. You could pass them around. The first thing that's happening when you're inhaling that volatile molecule, is you're warming and moistening those aromatic molecules, and they're starting to travel up through your nostrils, and they're going to go round these like scroll-shaped small bones called the turbinate bones, and then they're going to get up into this patch of up here called your olfactory epithelium. Now, your olfactory epithelium is supposedly, I've never actually seen it, but that would be fascinating, wouldn't it? Postage stamp size, and when I read that, I always imagine, one of the small postage stamps, not one of those really like long ones, because otherwise, you'd have like a lot of olfactory epithelium happening around here, but a small postage size, but on that small postage size of olfactory epithelium are trillions of cells. I mean, it is one of the most highly populated pieces of tissue in your body. I mean, there's the fact that somebody dissected this and sat and counted the cells, I mean, hello, probably not, but just remember a lot of damn cells on that postage stamp up here in your nose, and it's gone round, it's got warm and moist, but the fascinating thing, how does that volatile molecule get into the cells of that olfactory epithelium? Well, there's all these little like cilia, which I always think of like an anemone in the sea, and on the tips of the cilia is protein, different types of protein, and each protein on each tip of each cilia is different, and it is somehow connected with DNA. Holy Hannah. So, what does this mean? That means that DNA and that protein is grabbing, and there's like this little lock key thing happening. They link up. There's like, oh, I found my one. On it gets, and then it generates this nervous message, this electrical impulse that then goes to a certain part of the brain, the limbic system, also to the hypothalamus. You get a cascade of hormones, your physiological response, the limbic system, immediately a memory recall, an experience, something that reminds you of something or some emotional release, something. Here's the clincher. Essential oils react physiologically and psychologically simultaneously. Now, what else in life does that? Not much. It's fantastic, incredible, and it all happens in an instant. And the interesting thing about this DNA and the protein is what makes each person unique. So, for example, I love the fact that you all inhaled anise and loved it, but say, for example, when you're a little girl, your grandmother was always drunk. And when she got drunk, she was really mean and nasty. And for some reason, her drink of choice was, and I'm not picking on you, was anise liqueur. I'm just trying to think of a crazy example, right? And she always kind of smelt bad of it, right? And you really loved your grandma and you loved going to see her, but she was usually in a bad mood and there was a lot of upset at her house, but you really loved her, and there was always this smell there, kind of like anise. And she was old and she had really interesting things in her drawers, and you really wanted to look in the drawers, right? You loved opening the drawers because there was pretty old things in there. And you asked her, she says, no, get out of my drawers, it's none of your business. And so you didn't want to open the drawer, but you kind of did. So when she wasn't looking or she was outside, you opened the drawer, but then you turn around and, oh my God, she's behind you. So your experience with anise is flight and fight. You immediately get a shot of cortisol and you immediately think, oh my God, I've been bad, and you get scolded. Anise is never going to be an oil you ever want to use, because that psychological, that's locked in you forever. So you see, here's the subjective nature of aromatherapy. We know it works. We know it has this potential to create this cascade of hormones through the hypothalamus. We know it has the potential of unlocking memories, but for everybody the memory is going to be different. Now, a memory, a negative or positive memory, will override the physiological action. Research is showing this.